Dawn. I'm the Ginger Cat Stitcher here on YouTube, and welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Today I have another tutorial for you. We are going to make a pincushion and a needle book holder out of a Brie cheese box. So this is just cheese I got at the grocery store, and it's cardboard. It kind of looks like it might be balsa wood, but it's just a round cardboard box. But I thought it was really cute. I loved the shape and I loved the size. So join me as I show you how to make a pincushion and needle book out of this box. All right, so to begin, we need to get our materials together. Excuse the cattail. We need our box that we're going to use, and then we'll need to choose some fabrics. So I have chosen this fabric to cover my box. It's going to cover the top, the bottom, and the side. And then I have this fabric that's going to go in the inside top, and this fabric that's going to go the inside bottom. And then I needed some fabric for my needle book, so I chose this fabric and this fabric. I think this will be the front and this will be the back, but I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see how that progresses as we go along. And then we'll need some fabric for the flower on top. Now I'm using wool. You don't have to use wool. You can use any kind of fabric you want, but I have lots of wool from, I also do rug cooking, so I have lots of wool. And I chose this beautiful purple piece here for the petals, and then this piece for the center is a very loose weave wool, and I think that's just going to be beautiful with the purple there. So, and it has all different colors in it. It's so pretty. It was a lady's suit jacket. So got that. And then you'll also need, so fabric for your flower. You'll also need some fusible fleece, nice and soft on one side and glue on the other. And then you will need some felt, or you could use pieces of wool or just pieces of fabric. This is just some felt for the pages in the needle book. Then you will also need some Mod Podge, and I'm just using what I have, which is the matte Mod Podge. So that's it. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is the fabric for our box. So let's open this up. Oh, I forgot to mention our trusty heat erasable friction pen. So we're going to open up our fabric. Now you can choose any fabric you want to cover your box with, but I would recommend that it is at least wide enough so that you can cut a strip that goes around the side. So first thing we're going to do is take our lid and put it upside down onto the wrong side of our fabric. Now when you hold your pen, you're going to want to hold it at an angle so that the circle you draw is right up against your box. If you hold it too far out like this, you could be as much as a 1/4 inch off. So we're going to hold it so that it goes right up against the box. We'll just trace around there like that. And there is our pattern for our top. A little bit hard to see. Oh, and I was going to also tell you, I chose a fabric with a relatively dark background. I didn't want any of this to show through. So if you happen to choose a fabric with a light background, like kind of like this piece here, the printing on the box is going to show through a little bit. So in that case, I would just use some white craft paint and paint the whole thing white, and then that will solve that problem for you. So we did the top, and now we're going to do the bottom. They're slightly different sizes, so we have to trace them separately. trace this around here. And there we go. It's a little hard to see on camera, but I can see it perfectly fine for cutting it out. And now to do, to do the strip, I will take my fabric here, and I'm going to take my lid, and I will put it so that I have lined up the edge of my lid with the edge of my fabric, and then I will just mark right here so I know that's how wide the strip that I need to cover my box. And I've already torn one, so it's that wide, and I tore it because I wanted the rough edges. It gives a more primitive look that I like. So just tear it, and my length of fabric was long enough that I'm going to be able to do the top and the bottom out of the same strip. But if it's not, your fabric isn't, then just tear 2 strips and then tear it. All right, so next we need to trace our inside bottom. So again, we're going to put that on here like this, and then we need the inside top. So this is the fabric for my inside top. I'll just put this on. Make sure I'm in camera. And there we go. There's our inside top. So now what we're going to do is we are going to cut these out and then iron them to our fusible fleece, side. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So we have cut out 2 circles for the top and the bottom. And then we have our strip that I tore for the sides. And then I have my inside lining, and I ironed the fusible fleece on here. Now, if you don't have fusible fleece, you can use just some quilt batting. You can use a piece of felt, or you don't have to put anything under there if you don't want. Bunch of fusible fleece, so that's what I did. And then I have my bottom cut out and fused. So let's take our top and a fit. Let's try our bottom piece. Same thing, it's a little bit big, so we're just going to trim that a little bit. Okay, I like the way that's fitting in there too. Okay, so now we're going to use our Mod Podge to glue them down. You can use regular Elmer's glue, you can use Eileen's tacky glue, you can use pretty much any kind of glue you want to get a little bit better control. So we're going to do the top first. We're just going to pour a little bit in here. I think that's probably way too much. I'll just kind of wing it. So if you weren't using the fusible fleece and you're just using a piece of felt or quilt batting, first you would spread your glue on here like this, and then glue down your felt or batting, and then you'd put some glue on top of that, and then glue your fabric to that. So I think that's a good bit. Now I'm going to take my lining, just push that down. And you can still see this gap here. Let me see if I can get it. You can still see this gap right here, but that's going to be covered with the outside. So basically we just want to smooth this out. Make sure there's no bumps or wrinkles. Get it all nice and smoothed. And I really like having something under there. So I really suggest, rather than just gluing it straight to the cardboard, put something, a little bit of padding under there. It just gives it a nice look. We'll move on to our bottom piece. So we have plenty of Mod Podge in this piece. We will take our bottom and clean off some of our mess. It'll be just fine. It'll actually give it a little bit of stability. Okay, moving right along. Now we need our lid and our fabric for the lid. This time I'm going to dip my finger into the Mod Podge and try this. There we go. And you put your top and bottom circular pieces on before you do the side trim. So I got my Mod Podge all over that. And if it sticks over, like hangs over the edge some, not a problem. Just want to work from the center and work out nice and smooth, making sure you don't have any wrinkles. Get rid of that Mod Podge on my finger. There we go. So a little bit of hangover there. Totally fine. Make sure that's all smoothed down. And we'll move on to the bottom. There we go. Looking less and less as like a Brie cheese box, and more like a really cute fabric covered box. Set that aside. Now here's the piece that I tore. Let's see, I think where the two edges meet, I would like to have it frayed. So I'm just going to pull some of these strings out to kind of give it a, see if you can see the frayed edge there. We're gonna go, and there is a seam on the box and I don't want to start and end on that seam, so we will move it over a little bit, see how long we need it, and I want to overlap just a little bit. I can always trim it down later. All right, move this out of the way because that's for the bottom. And we're going to take our Mod Podge and go all over the side. All right, now we're going to take our strip. I'm going to start right there. We're just going to lay it on. Sorry, I wasn't in frame there. So just slowly take your time. Make sure that you're getting it nice and smooth. Going all the way around. And then we have a little bit of overlap here. We're going to take our Mod Podge a little bit further. Stick that down. Use a little bit right there underneath of that part. Just use my finger, get some. You don't want to have too much that it soaks through your fabric. And there we go. So far, so good. Now we're going to do the same thing with the bottom. All right, and there's our bottom. So we have our two pieces of fabric. Measurement requirements for these would be just big enough to fit the box lid on. So as long as your fabric can fit inside your box, you'll be fine. So that is our top, this is our bottom, and that's what we need to use to make our measurements. So again, we're going to put this on here. I'm going to use my pen. I'm going to draw around. And I have my circle, a little hard to see, but maybe you can see it better if I hold it up. And put this one on the wrong side, and I'm still using my bottom piece because that's where we want it to fit, is into the bottom. And these pieces of fabric were just from a charm pack to give you kind of the idea of the size. So again, there's my line. Now I'm going to cut these out, and I'm going to put some fusible fleece on these as well. So I'm going to pause you right here while I go do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my needle book with the fabrics that I chose for the front and the back with the fusible web. And then I also just used the inside lid, and I put it on my felt, traced around it, cut it out to make my pages. So I have a little sandwich here of my top of my needle book, 2 felt pages, and then the back of my needle book. So what we need to do now is make the binding, the stitches that are going to hold the needle book together, as well as the clasp that's going to keep it closed. Will also make it easier to pull out of the box. So at the beginning of the video, when I was giving a list of supplies, I forgot about the buttons. So you're going to need 2 small buttons for the binding that's going to hold it together, and then a larger button for the closure, and then another button just about that size that's going to go onto the back to be the back of that closure. So I'm going to go ahead and use excuse me, some purple embroidery floss. I thought that would go nicely. So I'm going to just somewhere find my end of my embroidery floss, and then I will use it to stitch down my buttons. So I'll go ahead and do that so you don't have to watch me stitching that, and I'll be right back. All right, I have the buttons sewn on. I sewed the 2 little ones over here on the left to form the binding of our little needle book. Using 2 strands of embroidery floss, I stitched it all the way through 4 layers. Over here, I sewed the bigger button, 2 strands of embroidery floss, just through the top layer, and the other button directly behind it, just through the back layer. Now, all right, so now it's time to put our tie on. I chose to use some orange crinkly ribbon. We're just going to slip it underneath the button. All right, so we're just going to slip it under the button, tie a knot. Sometimes easier said than done. All right, slip this under the button, tie a knot, and there's our needle book. Fits in there nice and snug, and the ribbon makes it easy to pull out. Got little scraps. All right, so now the next step that is optional is to use some ink and a sponge, and like I've done on this one, I've kind of antiqued the edges, just kind of gave it more of an aged look. So I just have a sponge and some ink, and I'm just going to go around the edges. Again, this is optional. If you don't want the aged look, go ahead and skip this step. I like to get some of the ink down onto the inside. And then turn it over and go around the outside. Just kind of ages it up a bit. And there we go. And now we are ready to make the flower to put on top. So we have our box and our needle book. The lid goes on like this. And now we're ready to decorate the top. All right, so I've cut a circle out of my center fabric, and I just traced the lid of my box to get my center. I have a needle with some strong thread, and I'm just going to do a running stitch about 1/4 inch away from the edge, and I'm just going to do a running stitch all the way around it to gather it up. Let's pull it through. So I'm doing a running stitch so that I can gather it. Let me go ahead and finish going all the way around, and I'll be right back. I've sewed all the way around with my running stitch, and now I'm just going to pull that together. I've created my center. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff my center. This is going to be the pin cushion. I'm going to use some black walnut shells down in there first, crushed black walnut shells, and then I'll top it off with some stuffing, some fiberfill. I have my little cup of walnut shells. Just going to pour those in there. Shake it around a bit. Now I'm going to add my stuffing on top of that. As I pull my threads together, I'm going to just do a simple knot here. And as I'm pulling them together, I'm going to use my fingers and push this fiberfill down in there. Getting it nice and tight. Always uses way more than you think. Okay, I'm going to get this packed nice and tight, and then I'm going to tie off my ends to have my middle pin cushion. I'll be right back. All right, so I have finished the center. Make sure you use strong quilting thread or upholstery thread so you can pull it without your threads breaking. I've got it stuffed nice and tight. And I decided to switch out my purple that I'm using for my petals for this darker purple. The other one was just a little too bright. So to make your petals, you're going to want 3 strips that are 1.5 inches wide by 7 inches long. And if your center might come out slightly different size than mine, what you want to make sure of is that it's enough to go around your center ball. So if yours comes out a little bigger than mine, you might need a longer strip, but you want enough to go around your center ball. And now we're going to cut our petals. We're going to cut from one end to the other and make like a fringe, but you don't want to cut all the way through and make your petal fall off. So you're going to stop cutting about 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. Let me show you like this. And I stopped cutting right there so that it's still attached. And that's probably slightly more than 1/4 inch. You're just going to make fringe. Some can be wider and some can be a little skinnier. Petals aren't exactly perfect. So we're just going to go the length of the fabric, cutting a fringe, making sure not to go all the way through so that all of your petals are still attached. Go all the way to the end. And there's one. And I'm going to do it to these other 2 strips, and then I'll be back. Once you have all of your strips cut, now you're going to glue them to your center. So we're going to take our hot glue and we're going to run a bead of hot glue all the way around. And we're just going to lay our fabric, right down on our hot glue. And we're just going to keep gluing the excess down. And there's our first layer of petals. And we're going to work on our second layer of petals. And we're going to put our hot glue bead on the outside of our purple petals. And now we'll do our third and final one. Let's see, I want to make sure I got an even thickness, so we'll start over on this side. right, we'll give that a chance to set up just a bit. And this is going to be our flower on the top of our box. It's coming together. So we got all these little fuzzies on here. Kind of spread out the petals. Now at this point, if you wanted to, you could use your scissors and give them a bit of a trim. Kind of make the petals a little more pointed. So if you liked that look, you could go ahead and give that a little trim. I prefer mine a little squared off. Got a little bit of thread sticking out there. All right, so now is the time to glue this to this. So we're going to run a bead of glue all the way around on the high surface here. Don't want to put glue in the middle, it won't touch the box. We'll flip it upside down, approximate the middle, give it a nice squish. And there we go, our purple cone flower fabric covered box. We can add in some cute pins, like these little scissors, and how about this little quilt square? Aren't those adorable? Here's the bottom, and we'll put the lid on, and there we go. There's our fabric covered box, pincushion, needle book. You could even then take your needle book out and use this as a snippet box to catch all your orts, your little snippets of thread. Our needle book. Tie it. We got some needles in there. Just tie her back up. Back into her sweet little box. Put the lid on. And there you have it. A purple cone flower pincushion needle book. And that's it. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you give it a try. It's a very fun project and a nice way to make a cute pincushion and needle book holder out of something that would normally be thrown away. So thanks again. Bye. I'll see you next time.